Hello, my name is Kashanta Adams, and today I'm going to be talking about an inclusive classroom environment. It is our job to cultivate our classroom culture. Our classroom should celebrate, embrace, and adapt to cultural differences, and teachers have to diversify and show students their culture represented in the curriculum. Cultural influences can inherently shape how your students learn and how you teach. This can help communication styles, learning preferences, impacting student value, and expectations that can ultimately affect how students feel about education and how teachers can interact with them. We should provide cultural competence, which is the capacity to interact effectively with people from diversified cultures and understand their point of view. This environment is crucial for ELL instruction because it can assist educators with having a captivating learning environment and help educators to create an inclusive environment that way you show your students that you value their experiences and background, which ultimately can lead to academic success and lead to superior language acquisition. When your students feel included, you create an environment conducive of learning. You can help integrate your cultural beliefs and values by encouraging your students to share, create an inclusive atmosphere, encouraging cultural understanding, and embody culturally consistent content. Ways that you can create a culturally inclusive and responsive environment: build relationship with your families by getting to know them. Respect and value your students' diversity by celebrating diverse culture and your students' experiences. You can make students feel respected and valued while encouraging a supportive, safe, and culturally aware learning environment. You can also use authentic materials from the culture, including art, videos, and music. You can make real world connections to student lives. You can also promote students to have cross cultural discussions about their lives, allowing them to make connections with their peers. You can offer context and support to ensure students understand the context of lessons as well as keep communication open with families. We know that culture is important to student learning because it helps to cultivate the learning experience for ELL students. It can help with communication, sway their motivation, and their overall educational success. It requires that educators be culturally inclusive and responsive. To create an inclusive environment, you can first ask yourself if you have any bias. If we acknowledge our bias, then we won't maintain equalities toward marginalized fractions and privilege toward populations that are part of the majority. Basically, we have to acknowledge that we have bias that may compromise our thoughts and how we treat others. By recognizing that we are able to fully commit to doing and being better. Get to know your students and their lifestyle can help build relationships with your students. When you get to know your students, that can help you understand where they're coming from, their experiences, and also how they may feel. Now that you know your students, you can adapt and change your curriculum and lessons to focus on instructional lessons, standards, and materials that reflect your students' culture while exposing them to appropriate approaches and different traditions. You may need to adapt your teaching quality and curriculum by making sure the curriculum is readily available in the student's home language. Make accommodations to have visual aids around the classroom to ensure that your students understand the material and content to keep up with the lessons that are being taught. Remind students that native language has merit and is just as important as learning English. This way the students feel that they have merit and want to learn and incorporate both languages. I can support the needs of my ELL students by realizing that they come from different backgrounds and can have unique needs, strengths, and identities. Various strategies can foster these students appropriately. First, we have the culturally receptive teaching. This is when teachers can integrate students' cultures and backgrounds into the lesson and curriculum. This can make their experiences more pertinent and engaging. Differentiated instruction. When you make lessons, you should tailor the lesson to reach each student at their unique needs. This can include visual aids, music, small groups, and hands-on activities. Individualized Education Program, or IEPs. These are used for students that have disabilities. This program outlines services, accommodations, and goals. This plan is used to give students a starting point and goals they want to make before the year ends. Inclusive classroom environment. You have to create a safe and welcoming place where all students feel admired. When you do this, your students are more willing to participate and feel more leisurely. You can meet the social and emotional needs of your students by remembering they are in a place where they may have issues with communication, they may be scared, have moments of isolation, and will be around people they cannot communicate with. This may cause culture shock. There are ways to help them to feel more comfortable. There are counseling service procedures. Some kids may need additional emotional support. You can suggest or reach out to a school counselor. You can also offer outside resources if they are uneasy about meeting at school. Social Emotional Learning Programs, or SEL. This program teaches various skills, including self-awareness, empathy, and conflict resolution. Community building exercises. When you facilitate various activities that help to foster the gaps in the community and help them feel like they belong. And mentorship programs. You can put ELL students with English first language students. This way they can provide guidance and support. We have to remember that each student is different and unique and needs our support to be successful. It is important to understand social, emotional, and cultural needs of our students when we establish classroom routines and procedures. It is critical when establishing effective classroom procedures. There are some ways to encourage this. You can foster inclusion. When you create an inclusive environment, students feel welcome and safe. You can promote engagement. Students need to feel safe and valued. This will make them more encouraged to engage in the whole learning process. Learning enhancements. When you understand students' backgrounds, this can encourage families to tailor instruction, which will make the lessons more relevant and effectual. Supporting students' well-being. Teachers can address students' emotional and social needs, which can support the students' overall satisfaction, which is essential to the learning process. Family and community practices can influence language learning by reinforcing classroom learning, providing diversified language submissions, and shaping cultural conditions for language use, which can impact both educational and social emotional development. These factors can impact language learning. We can foster strong family and school relationships by creating a welcoming environment for families. You can create this environment by having pictures of other cultures around the classroom, making sure materials are available in both home language and English, and fostering a bilingual environment. Make your classroom talk to your students and your parents. You can get to know your students. This can help in the educational process. Once you learn your students, this can tell you if they may need additional help, like a response to intervention or an IEP. You can get to know your students by having conversations with them, collaborating with their colleagues who may have come in contact with a student, or asking them questions about their interests. You can build relationship with families. You have to remember it begins with day one with your students and their families. Your first encounter will set the tone for the rest of the school year. If you make them feel welcome on day one, they will feel comfortable, at peace, and ready to learn. Don't make assumptions about your family or students. Immigrant families make significant sacrifices for their children to get education. Don't assume because they don't come to events, that means they don't want to. Some immigrant families may also have different ideas of the educational process. Learn about language resources. Schools are obligated to share information in the home language of their families. You have to ensure that families understand and comprehend what you're asking of them. If a student needs special education services, the family needs to understand their rights, the special education process, and how the school can support their child. As a teacher, you may think outside the box. Some of these families may be concerned about immigration status. They may be nervous or scared about entering the school, and they may need to develop sensitivity around these possible topics. By knowing this, you may need to meet your student's family in a different way. Give them options that make them feel more comfortable and that you care about them and their child. We want to ensure that the child is given the best chance to be successful in and out of school. And I'm hopeful that making sure that we have an inclusive environment, we can do just that. Thank you.